Trudeau's Liberals double down on funding a UN agency with questionable ties to terrorism. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. We've been telling you for 10 months now about the Canadian government's decision to try and fund UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agency. Started reporting on it back in February, and at that point, the Trudeau Liberals were saying no decision had been made. Well, of course, this week, they announced 25 million Canadian tax dollars going to this agency. An agency set up in 1948 to help Palestinian refugees after the establishment of the State of Israel. Whatever good they may have done in the past, for well over a decade now, they have been associated with terrorist organizations, with violence against Jews, with threats towards Israel. UNRWA's unions are heavily linked to Hamas. In fact, Hamas slate candidates have won elections at the union level for several years now. But beyond that, we've seen time and again an attempt by UNRWA workers to deny the existence of Israel. In previous reports, I've shown you the textbooks that are used in UNRWA schools that call for the killing of Jews or the eradication of the State of Israel. I've told you about UNRWA locations, be it hospitals, schools, or clinics, being used to store Hamas rockets or to launch Hamas rocket attacks, all with the tacit complicity of the folks at the UN Relief and Works Agency. Stephen Harper and his Conservatives had cut them off and said that they would turn all other development aid, all other humanitarian aid, to other NGOs on the ground. But Trudeau's Liberals desperately want a UN Security Council seat, and they'll do anything to get it, including funding an organization with, as I've told you, questionable ties to Hamas. Well, the response from Trudeau and his Liberals is that it's better that these kids be in school than on the streets.
Palestinian refugees are amongst the poorest and the most vulnerable, and it is my mandate to help them. This is why, after conducting meaningful oversight and negotiating an agreement that includes robust control measures, I announced today that Canada is providing $25 million in funding to UNRWA for their security and development, but also for the stability of the region. I prefer to see these children in UN schools, classrooms, than in the street.
Well, what would they learn from UNRWA staffers if these kids are in the streets? What kind of people are we supporting with our money? After the announcement, UN Watch, a reputable organization with full standing at the UN in Geneva that goes to all the human rights meetings and details all of the dictatorships that try and tell us how to live, well, they put out this. Check it out. This is an UNRWA staffer, and they have sent the name and social media account of them to the Canadian government, an account that praised Hitler. It's unfortunately not the only one. Then check out this. Guns pointed at a cartoon of a Jewish man. I wish this were the only incidents that we could describe, but UN Watch just a year ago pointed out to other examples, including, well, look at this Facebook account. Calls for and support of the stabbings of Palestinians. Stab Zionist dog, says UN employee Hani al-Rami. Is this what we want to be funding as Canadians? Here in Ottawa, we've had a number of swastikas painted on Jewish synagogues and places of residences of Jewish Canadians in the nation's capital. That has rightly prompted outrage. But why would we be outraged at that if we're not going to be outraged at the idea that we're funding people that actually call for the killing of Jews? And in funding UNRWA, that's what we're doing. Don't believe me? Well, let's scroll through more of this. Number 2, UN employee Ibrahim Ali glorifies knifing's Molotov cocktail attacks. That's on his social media accounts. And then an UNRWA teacher celebrates stabbings on her timeline. This is not the only organization that's documented this. The Palestinian Media Watch detailed how UNRWA officials stood by a map at the announcement of a German-funded program. They stood by a map that showed Palestine, but no Israel. They deny the existence of Israel. They call for the killings of Jews. They celebrate stabbings. They are accessories to the rocket attacks that happened all throughout 2014. This is what your $25 million are going to. This is the organization that UNRWA is. This is who the Trudeau government has decided to support. Again, an announcement that was made while Trudeau himself was hanging out with the Cuban dictators, the Castro brothers. They say that there are strict guidelines in place, but many countries have claimed that, and then time and again, once UNRWA has been caught with textbooks calling for the killing of Jews, they say, oh, it's not us. And yet they allow those textbooks into their own classrooms, into their own schools. This was a bad decision, and if you agree that it shouldn't be happening, that your tax dollars should not be going to this organization, that this should not be happening in your name, then I ask you once again to sign our petition. It's at stophelpinghamas.ca. That's stophelpinghamas.ca. If you've already signed the petition, then share it to Facebook. Share this YouTube video to Facebook. Make sure that your fellow Canadians know what's happening. This isn't a call to say, stop giving humanitarian aid to people that are oppressed by a terrorist organization called Hamas, a banned terrorist organization in Canada, the United States, and elsewhere. This is saying, if we're going to give aid, let's not give it to people that aid and abet the terrorists. StopHelpingHamas.ca. Go now, sign the petition, share it on social media. Help your fellow Canadians see what's really happening. If you like what you just saw, then please do us a favor, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's easy, just click down below or head on over to therebel.media and become a member, and you'll be able to access content you won't find anywhere else.